Welcome once again to this last lecture for today. For me, I find this topic very exciting. Skills in assessing funding opportunities. Skills in assessing funding opportunities. Identifying a funding source is one thing. Assessing the funds is another. It is this second leg that requires skills. On a daily basis, pressure is mounted on ground sources. The donors also are careful to ensure that monies sacrificially donated by individuals, families, and organizations are judiciously spent. They are therefore left with no choice but to apply rules that ensure that the funds are allocated to the right seekers. Your proposal should be able to passionately, we're looking at skills that give your proposal an edge in the grant sourcing process. Your proposal should be able to passionately capture the interest of the grant giver. To do this, you should take time to research the history and philosophy behind the grant. Number two, start small and build your background gradually. As a beginner with no previous grant winning records, it is advisable to start small. Do not go for grants that run into millions and hundreds of thousands of euros, pounds, or dollars, unless you are not the principal investigator. There are grants that range from 1,000 to 10,000 euros or pounds. Start with such grants. Your proposal, okay, let's take the third item. Let there be sincerity of purpose. Ensure that grants are spent in line with the purpose for which they are released. Your interest should tally with that of the donors. Do not aim to use money meant for the poor and vulnerable in society or orphans for self-gratification, like purchase of new cars, building of personal houses, without sincerely doing the purpose of the grant. Number four, prepare an appealing or persuasive proposal. This requires time and planning. Like I stated earlier, that there's so much pressure on grantees, so much pressure on grant sources. So for you to keep afloat, for your proposal to shine, it must be appealing or persuasive. Some of the points you hear from me now may have already been mentioned by my colleague, Professor Regina Ejemot Mwadiaro. Well, that is understandable. It simply means that those points are very strong points of emphasis. So start early is another point. Start early and also submit early. It will be difficult to come up with a persuasive proposal if you do not have sufficient time at your proposal. Also endeavor to submit early. This is to avoid last-minute rush, errors, and unforeseen technical hitches. If you wait till the last day or maybe an hour or two to submission time. A problem can just develop. Maybe your laptop has issues, or you just discover that internet is misbehaving. And you can imagine what you have labored for, maybe for weeks and months to package, you are unable to submit. It can be painful. So don't wait till the last day. Hit the nail at the head. That is point number 6. Do not beat about the bush. Go straight to the point. The funders may not have the luxury of time to dance around with you. So go straight to the point. Number 7, ensure that you conform to the criteria of the grantee. Use their templates. 8, and very important, check eligibility requirements. Don't jump into writing without checking this. You may find out that you are not qualified in the first place to participate in that call. What will help you out is that you've checked the eligibility requirements to know whether you are eligible or not. Before you begin your proposal, find out if you are qualified. This will spare you the ordeal of wasting energy, time, and sometimes money. It is important to have a good understanding of the call before you venture into it. As a driver, you should be sure of your destination before you embark on your journey. 10, write and write again. Be persistent. Grant writing can be an arduous or difficult task. It can be frustrating. Your proposals can be rejected again and again. This can be quite discouraging. Many people give up when it is like that. Do not give up. Another point to note, grant attracting proposals should be solution-driven, not promotion-driven, not money-driven. What should propel you into writing a proposal is that you want to solve a problem. So a grant attracting proposal, a persuasive proposal should be solution-driven, because the donors will look out for the solution you want to solve. Identify the contact in the call so that you can call if there is need for clarification. Most calls come with a contact where you can make further inquiries. And I think it is very important for you to make these inquiries where you are not sure. Otherwise, you'll be beating about the bush. 13, go for a research of the funding source rather than the funding opportunity announcements. Many of us make this mistake. We jump at the calls. Some of us are just looking out for the calls, and once we see one, we jump into it. Dig deep into their backgrounds, interests, and records of previous grant tendencies. That will help us better. In other words, I don't have to wait for the call. I take, for instance, say the Rockefeller Foundation, I go into investigating, or Wellcome Trust. I take some time, study Wellcome Trust. In the process, I will even know when their calls are supposed to come. I would have addressed gray areas. I would have sufficiently bought into the passion, the culture of the call. And when I write within these circumstances I have narrated, you will see that my proposal will fit into their interests. So take time, do some research on these organizations and foundations we have presented. In the process, you will discover for yourself when the calls will come, and you will have been well prepared. And then this last point, spend quality time to proofread your proposal over and over before you click the submission button. Many people have submitted proposals a minute after they realize that, oh, there was something they did wrongly. Oh, I did my budget in dollars instead of pounds, or vice versa. So take time to go through repeatedly to avoid last-minute errors. Before I round up, there is a point I want to just lay emphasis on. Talking about sincerity of purpose. Let us be sincere that the purpose of the grant application is to sincerely solve a problem in society. Like I said earlier, you have a foundation, for instance, that is trying to address poverty problems. A foundation that is targeted at helping the poor. And then people have made sacrifices by contributing, donating into that cause. And then here comes a grant seeker. You are lucky you get the grant, but your purpose, unfortunately, is for self-gratification. And probably you invest very little of that grant into the work, and you keep the rest for yourself. This is unfair. I shouldn't go, for instance, into orphanage as an NGO, orphanage business, with the hope that big money will be voted in, and then I will use it for myself. That is not fair. So there should be sincerity of purpose. That sincerity of purpose, I think, can be found. The coloration of that sincerity can be found in your proposal. So this is where I want to stop, as I give you a chance for interaction and questions, if any. Thanks for listening.
Oh, thank you so much, Professor Mbe-Injah, for that concise but pointed and clear lecture. Okay, so we've been educated on the skills that are necessary to assess funding opportunities. Do we have people who have questions? You could raise your hands. We have seen 11 participants who have raised their hands. Please confirm that your hand is not raised if you do not intend to ask a question. First, I will give the mic to, this should be Professor Basi Okon. So Professor Okon, please go ahead with your question.
Good morning. Sorry, it's not the one.
Oh, wow. Okay. You have so many Basi Okon, actually. Yes. I was confused. Okay.
Gloria,
notwithstanding, you'll be a professor someday. So, yeah. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Okay. I don't know this question I'm going to ask. I raised my hand before when Professor Ejemot finished, but I think you didn't see my hand.
Okay, it's for Professor Ejemot. So just hang on. She's coming to join Professor Mbe right now.
Okay. Because although the question also could be answered by Prof. Okay. Because it should be a skill. Okay, somebody did ask about your budget, if the budget is not specified. I want to also ask, there are some donors that just send in calls, without templates. I've seen that many times. And then especially when it comes to budgeting, how do you handle that? Because they just say they have this amount available for this to fund your research. So how do you now get to know how to break down the budget, you know, to meet their needs? Because your proposal of the donor. So how do you do that? What skill do you need to get to get that done in the area of budgeting?
Okay, thank you, Basioko. I had earlier answered that proposals could come in, investigator initiated. It could also be based on donor initiated, right? Because they will have the call, they put out the call. I had said that if there are no specific budget ceiling, for instance, not 10,000, that's nothing, they didn't say anything. You now do your budgeting must be based on your planned activity. And your planned activity must be based on the ones that will address your objectives.
Okay.
Yes, so you are, so that's why I said that freelance kind of budgeting gives you the leeway to really express yourself, because it will give you the way you want, the way you feel your budget. But remember, the key word is it reasonable, is it realistic? But if you have a ceiling, like for instance, we finished just a grant application that said, the donors just said, £10,000 maximum. They didn't say the number of whether 10,000 is the total they will give, or whether 10,000 is for each individual. If you are not giving that and you work with your project, what we did in our own group, I was the lead this thing, we are just waiting the outcome of that particular project application. What we did was to go ahead and assume that it's only one they want to give all over. And we made our budget, though the total they stated is £10,000, our own budget was 8,000 something pounds. But because we chose our own, we looked at our activities, events, items, and did the costing based on such, and arrived at, we didn't finish the whole 10,000. So it is about your work. That's why you need to understand what you want to do, and to do, remember, realistic and reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Next question. We have 20 hands up.
Okay. Yeah, so the next, we have 20 hands up, right? So Prof, I think you can also invite people from your end. I mean, you're a co-host, so you can choose to invite anyone to talk.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Let's see who again. I've raised their hands. Okay. Alexander Ntonu. I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Please proceed with your question.
All right, good afternoon. Thank you so much for the very insightful, very enlightening. In fact, I don't know if I'm to use the word blessed, but I think that's what I'm feeling right now. I'm so blessed and to be in this workshop.
Yes, you are.
You've prepared your proposal, and then you submitted to two bodies, and eventually the two of them, they approve your proposal, and then they awarded you the grant. What are you going to do? Will you reject one and say, okay, so how do you go about it?
Okay. Alexander, thank you for the question. Even though I find it difficult to see that it can happen like that in reality, because usually the calls come from different sources, different requirements. Well, maybe such coincidences can still take place. But if it happens, I was talking about sincerity. And of course, if the grants, the calls are for the same time, then number one, you will even find it very difficult for you to say you are working for two sources of calls. Okay, you cannot be sending the same report to two different. For me, it's not tidy. It's not sincere. You should be able to take one and forgo the other. That is the best thing to do. Instead of collecting money from both sides for the same job. I don't see any sincerity in that. I don't know if I've answered your question, Alexander.
Yes, sir, you did, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, so we can now invite Dr. Moses Anongu. Please speak. You're muted, Dr. Moses. I don't know if you're saying something, but we cannot hear you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I first and foremost appreciate all our guest presenters and the facilitator, who is you, all the participants. My question has been on for some time. Imagine what Professor Mbe cautioned us that you cannot apply for a grant for orphanage home when the funder is about nuclear weapons or whatsoever. Now, I am doing a research that has to deal with the impact or the effect of war that links to orphanage matters. And I'm able to secure part of the grant from the donor agency that is more concerned about orphanage, and then another grant from the World Fair. Is it possible to have such grant? That is two different research with complementary impact. That's what I'm saying. Is it possible to access such grant?
Thank you, Dr. Moses. What you have said is painted a very good scenario. You have already answered the question. You are looking at, we said when we were answering the previous, I think, Basia that asked the question, similar question. What we are saying is that if they are similar in scope, in scale, and of the same focus, it would not be good to give it to different bodies. But peradventure, because people, you may be accepted in one and not accepted in another. The reasonable and ethical thing to do is that if your research is focused on have the same scale, the same community, target the same, and you get a funding from one organization on that same thing, that same project, you may likely find the other one. But using your example, you have painted a different scenario. In the other one, your central theme is on the effect of nuclear weapon on a particular thing. And then you are looking at another angle. Your central idea is now different, and nothing stops you from receiving from both sides. Remember, some of the international want to ask you, are you getting any, part of their questions in their online forms usually is that, have you applied for this the sponsorship for this particular project, this particular one? You have a yes or no answer. If you say yes, they will want some details, because nothing stops you, because sometimes you may have a project idea that 10,000 or the amount that the funders are offering may not cover at all. And you may even need to take from your own personal money. Nothing stops you from saying that though the amount, my method includes that is 10,000, but and you people are offering only 5,000. I hope to get the balance of it from so and so, and this is how I intend to do it. Because of such duplications, the funders want to put that and hold the applicant accountable in case there's a duplication of application. I hope I've answered your question.
In fact, Prof, you have made justice to the question.
Thank you.
You have made justice to the question.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Moses, I'm happy that that question was answered. Yeah, I have a question too that I can see resonating in the chat. People just want to know, who is an early career researcher? Who is an early career researcher? Because they are like, yeah, I mean, the grant part is less daunting. They feel more competent now from this workshop to undertake grant opportunities. But who is an early career? So can we take that?
Okay, thank you. We talk of early career. First, we look at the lecturer's scale from, well, let us say from the assistant lecturer to professor. Okay. Graduate assistants quite often are excluded, okay, because they are yet to come on board fully. But if you say early career, first you look at the lower steps of the ladder. One can look at, say, okay, assistant lecturer, lecturer 2. There is sometimes it's difficult to draw a line, because for one person, early career probably means assistant lecturer and lecturer 2. For another person, if they may even include lecturer 1. And yet, for another, early career would stop at the assistant lecturer. But if a project like this one is designed by the Association of Commonwealth Universities for early career to teach them the rudiments of grant writing, then it presupposes that early career should stop at lecturer 2, because anybody at the level of lecturer 1 should be in full grasp of the techniques of grant writing, because at the level of lecturer 1, it's expected that you should have come up with some publications, maybe up to 6 or 7 publications. So it's not as if at that level you have become a master of proposal writing. Okay, that is why some people will extend it up to lecturer 1. But for me, I think if we extend it to lecturer 1, it is not bad. The senior lecturer, like the name implies, okay, these are people who should have been grounded. But generally speaking, there is no end to knowledge. Even as we are talking now, there are professors in this workshop, okay, because they have the desire, they want to learn. We learn every day. So I think that's what I can say for now.
All right. So thank you very much for that. Professor Regina, do you have some?
I just wanted to add something to what Professor Inja said. In defining, he said it correctly. He said it's not really casting gold about who is an early career. Some funders may define early career as people that have not received grants before entirely, which means a professor qualifies. It depends on their own definition. But if we say career per se, if you have reached the highest, you are supposedly not part of it. But they may define their own earlier career. They will ask you, have you ever received any grant that you are the lead investigator or the lead person? So some may also define it by the duration, your year of graduation from either PhD or master's. So for most parts, early career researchers now as being, is not really the standard, is 1 to 5 years post-graduation from PhD or MSc, sometimes 7 years. It depends on how they want to classify early career researchers. Yeah. So, and sometimes some may say less than 10 years. So it depends on what they want to use in grading, the metrics they want to use, grading or classifying who is an early career researcher. But for most part, since we are in the academia, Professor Nja has really correctly defined the people we call early career researchers. It's expected that people will be, we have seen that we keep learning every day. I'm learning as we are teaching, I'm also learning. So it's not, so early career is part of a combination of a set of things. And for sure is that you keep learning until you tend to master your, because we see some of our undergraduates that are winning grants on their own as even undergraduates. So our students, so nothing, there's no restriction. They have not even started their career per se, and they are winning. So we also call them early career, but some are already seasoned by the way, the number of things they have won. Those ones are exceptional though, but that's the way to go. So early career may be defined, depends on the funder's idea. Some even go as back as 12 years. So that's how we can define early career.
Okay, so with that response, we say thank you to all the early career researchers who have joined this workshop today. Thank you for making this a possibility. I mean, we cannot just come here and host something like this and we don't see anybody. So we're happy that you're all here. So who is getting excited for tomorrow? Could you just say, I am in the chat? Let me know. Don't worry. I know some people have been asking, can I see your face? Can I see your face? You get to see my face tomorrow. Okay. Yeah, so let's just know who is actually